Hello, everybody. It is almost 1 o'clock. If you are joining, thank you for spending a bit of time today out of your lunch hour or your break to come and listen to the show today. If you bear with us in a minute, we will start in a couple of minutes. Oh, I think I can get some music up, can't I? Let's have a go. Hello, everybody. You are here. We are live on The Secret to Creating Confident Kids. I'm your host for today, Trevor Woolery. We have a special guest, Rachel Scanlon, today. She's an amazing artist. She's going to be talking with us to just help us to dive a little bit deeper into what she does and find out some of the amazing things that she's doing with the children she's interacting with. So I think we're going to start, really. I think most people are on. If you're logged in, you'll be on either Facebook, hello Facebook, you'll be on LinkedIn, hey LinkedIn, and there's probably about 2 people on YouTube. One of them's probably Mum. Hi, Mum. Well, Bob, come back. No, so yeah, feel free to check out the YouTube channel as well. It's a good way just to keep track on the episodes, the past episodes that we've had. I think I've got one to re-edit and put up there, so I'll put that up at some point. But back over to Rachel. I'd love to find out a bit more about you, Rachel. So can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name's Rachel. I'm a visual artist. So I've kind of come from fine art and a theatre background. I've made theatre sets for children that have come from a sort of giant pop-up book that opens out and becomes this space that children can enter, mostly for early years children, so sort of ages before school, 3 and 4 year olds. They can go into this space and explore, and it's kind of for them to inspire their imagination and just dream things and be creative. I'm trying to include families in that, so try and get families in as well. And I often find the children are the ones that dive in, and the families, the parents are like, oh no, you can't go near that, you can't touch that. But actually it's like, yes, you can. The whole point is it's interactive and you can get involved. I also work in schools and earlier settings and old people's homes as well, I've been in recently. So kind of visual arts across the board, across the spectrum, with all ages, really.
Okay, yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you. Really good introduction. I think we met, I don't know how many years ago now, quite a while ago, both as visual artists on a project, I don't know, maybe a couple of projects that we just kind of bumped into each other. And you're amazing. I love your work. Glad that you were able to come on the show. I was able to pin you down with your busy schedule. So let's take a little bit of a deep dive into, you talked a bit about this as space. So for those who don't understand, you work in 2D and you work in 3D. Kind of explain what you mean by space and the 3D element of the things that you do.
Yeah, I'm really interested in sort of spaces for people and architectural spaces. You can see I've got loads of stair images that I'm drawn into stairs and houses and structures and how people interact and engage with these spaces. So a lot of my work on the wall is 2D. I really like to work in 3D, but I find that obviously that's quite big and I need some space, and I kind of don't have quite enough space to store these things, which is really good idea when I made my pop-up books, because they can fold flat. So they fold to about sort of this wide. I can slot them down the side of my garage. But yeah, it's about sort of turning a space from 2D to 3D, how people might interact with that space, how they might move. I love the ideas of architectural intervention. So it's kind of putting something in a space that you've then got to walk around or crawl under or step over. This kind of changing a space and changing how people flow through the space. So that's kind of my interest, my background. I've got a little model here. I've forgotten that was here actually, little stairs. And I'm kind of been making miniature things with miniature people and then working out how that would look if it was huge, if it was a life-size space. So I quite like playing with scale. If I photograph this, does it look huge, depending on how I photograph it? So I quite like that idea of optical illusion and sort of visual trickery, and how you can do that with sculpture and pictures and within art. So that's kind of my interest from my background.
Yeah, I mean, looking at some of your sculptures, it reminds me of, when I was at art school in the early days, and I came across Escher.
Yeah.
And I was blown away by, the optical illusions that he was playing with in his artwork.
That's it. Yeah, I love Escher and how they all interlock together and the sort of labyrinth of stairs. I love the film Labyrinth. So anything with stairs in. There's been a few TV programs recently where the credits have got stairs in, and I keep pausing it and going, oh, look, must take a photo. But yeah, that sort of interlocking spaces and shapes and structures that kind of fit together, but do they?
Are there any metaphors attached to your kind of your stairs constructs, or is it more of a visual thing?
It's a visual thing, definitely, but sometimes it is that kind of space between. So it's kind of representing, I don't know, the upstairs and the downstairs, or this sort of between what reality and imagination, or sort of linking up these different spaces, these areas of our lives. So I guess it's a metaphor. I hadn't really thought of it in that way, but yeah, I like it.
Okay, brilliant. So let's move a little bit towards the work that you do with kids. Kind of explain a bit how you translate your creative practice and all the amazing things you do there, and then how that works or interacts with children, how that works.
Yeah, I mean, I do workshops in schools. Yeah, as I say, nursery, primary, secondary, sixth form. So sometimes it's just about learning a skill or helping them develop their own skills. But I don't want to be just helping a school make a wall of 30 pieces of art that look the same. I kind of want to bring out the individuality of the children. So I think that's what's really getting to me at the moment, is the idea that some settings just want, pieces of art that look lovely that Ofsted can come and tick a box for. But really my interest is in bringing out the children's own skill and talent and what they can do, see what they can produce, giving them something to be passionate for, see if they can find their voices, giving them some empowerment within what they can do, showing off their skills. Yeah.
I think some of the schools.
Go on. Yeah, Karen.
All right,
the idea sometimes. Yeah, we're both jumping in. I find as well at the minute, there's the social media thing at the minute where it's about perfect images. And I like this idea of well, it's not about a perfect image. As an artist, we've got, sketchbooks and sketchbooks full of our practices, things that have gone wrong. And don't be fearful of that. And I find that's quite important for children, is to not be fearful. It doesn't have to be perfect. You can take a risk. You can try things out. Which is why I really liked, at the minute, I'm working a lot in early years. And early years children don't seem to have that sort of barrier of it doesn't look perfect. They just do it. They just go for it. So you show them a skill. Like I've taken in clay. So this was made out of clay. Show them a little skill of how to do something. And they're like, oh, I want to do that. And then they get in and they don't have any preconceived ideas of what something should look like. So they just try it. And they'll go, what does it do if I wet it? And then they wet it and they go, oh, it does that. What does it do if I do this? And they push it to extremes. Like we've had clay, just liquid clay all over sort of tough trays. And they just go for it and keep going for it. And then, they'll go and add some grass to it. And what happens if we put leaves in it? And this kind of natural questions, curiosity, imagination, investigation, experimentation, that kind of is what I'm really trying to bring to children. and it gives them the power that they feel really important. They've made this decision. They've gone and got the grass, or they've put the water in, and they've done it on their own backs just to find out. I think that's really important. I think that sort of giving the children the voices and the power, and helping them be more confident.
Yeah, it's the ownership element, isn't it? I think as a parent myself, I struggled as a parent and an artist. I struggled with my kids, less so with my second one. But I really found it quite difficult when it came to just drawing and doing artwork. And I'll be like, yeah, okay, you want to draw on your hand? Yeah, let's draw on your hand. Okay, no, what are you doing? Not on your hand. But you got to kind of remember that's part of the process, and then just exploring mediums and figuring out what happens if you do stuff, and that's part of it. I think, obviously, being trained, you kind of think a certain way, but kids don't think that way, which is great. They've just got amazing open mind of possibilities. Maybe I need to get a bit more like that, maybe.
I think that's it. As a parent as well, you kind of, often children will come and do something, and then the parents like, well, you haven't done that quite right, let me just adjust that for you slightly, let me just put that sticker in the right place, and then you end up, they've gone and you're still there doing the sticker book or doing whatever the art thing is, and your child's kind of wandered off because actually they think, well, if you're going to do it, I won't bother doing it. So it's quite important to let them have it and let them do it wrong, let it be upside down, let it be back to front.
But is there a wrong? The thing
is there a wrong? Well, this is it. There is no wrong in art, which is what I always say. There's no way, no one can tell you it's wrong. I always remember being told by this teacher that some of her class were painting a picture, and it's this sort of jungle scene, and it's a monkey, and this child did a green monkey, and I was like, oh my god, that's great, what imagination. And she was like, no, I can't put that on the wall. And it was this whole kind of, but you can, celebrate the differences, celebrate everyone's individuality and people having different opinions, and celebrate that, put that up.
Yeah, I think part of it is maybe it's a mental shift that maybe I'm sure we've got some teachers in the audience, so maybe it's a mental shift that some teachers need to make away from maybe following prescriptive things. Maybe sometimes people's only experience of art was painting by numbers or something where they had a starting point and they ended up with the end result, and that was it. And maybe they didn't quite have this freedom, go crazy kind of process where you just see what happens if.
That's it.
That's really interesting. I know you work with teachers as well. You do inset training sessions. So how does that work? Explain what you do with teachers.
I mean, it really varies as to what the project is or what we're working on at the moment. But it's often about processes, like you say, rather than a product. It can be about a process, and it's about giving the materials over to the children and seeing what they do. And sometimes teachers, I don't know, my parents are both teachers, and they're both very much like, oh, you can't just give it over to the children. You have to have a written plan, and you have to have all these structures. And it's kind of like, well, do you? Or can you just, see what they do and then let them be the co-creators of this project? So I'm trying to get that into schools really whenever I can. And sort of this Emilia Reggio approach to learning that we've discussed before is all about process. So it's about letting children just explore a material and see what happens, and then push it to its boundaries and just let the child lead. And then the teacher's job, or the adult's role, is to kind of follow their lead, pick up on what they're doing, and then bring something in that helps them support that. So the next day it's like, oh, they really were interested in the mud, right? Let's add mud and water and see what happens then. And can we build with that? And can we sculpt with that? And then maybe there's another artist we could look at that's done something similar that links in. So it's this kind of following their lead, letting them be the creators, and we're just supporting them in their learning.
That sounds brilliant. That sounds really good. Sounds also a lot like Art Foundation. Day one, Art Foundation. Here's your space. Here's some stuff. Get on with it. But that's really good, and I think the beauty of that is the excitement that they're not being told they can't do something, and they're being encouraged to go for it, see what happens. Is that a bit scary for some kids?
It is a bit, I mean, there's way you can go in and you can just model something. You can show them, well, this is how I do it, and maybe you want to have a go, and they can have a go. So you're not encouraging anything dangerous. There's no kind of risks. Or if there are anything, I love using tools with early years children. It's great when you've got like a hammer and a nail and like, well, let's put this into this log and see what happens. And it's sort of parents as well and other staff often like not wanting them to use these tools because of the risk, but actually the risk shows that you trust them. It shows that you know, letting them have a go at something, you're going to show them how to do it correctly. They're going to have a go. You're there to support them and make sure it's all safe. So it's really nice to sort of let them have that, encourage them to have a go at something. And often children see parents do something or see someone in the street doing something and they want to do it themselves. When I did the clay session in one of the early years settings, I had a sort of wire that you cut the clay off the lump with, that literally I was just using it to give out the clay. And then this boy came over at some point and got the wire, and he was then slicing his clay in with this wire because he'd seen, you know, this is a tool that she's used and I want to have a go at that. And then he had a go at that and he spent a lot of the time just slicing the clay up, mashing it back together and slicing it up again. And I think a lot of this stuff at the minute as well, obviously having had a lockdown, there's a lot of children that don't know how to use like scissors, because a lot of parents are a bit scared about giving children scissors, and obviously school scissors are fairly safe. I mean, it's possible to cut yourself on school scissors. It's a risky business, but they're safety scissors. But yeah, it's kind of letting them have a go. Yeah. How are they going to learn if they don't have a go at something? And then if you keep taking something off them to cut for them, they just lose their confidence and they think, what's the point? So it's kind of giving them the tools, showing them the way, letting them have a go, seeing what they come up with, being quite loose and open with it and playful.
Okay. If it's not too painful, if it's too painful, we'll skip over. What kind of a kid were you? Were you a highly were you someone who got into stuff and just experimented, or were you a bit more precise?
That's a good question. Yeah, I was really good at making a mess, and I still am. So, not one of the kids. There's some children that don't like to get their hands messy, that maybe will sit on their hands and just watch. I was definitely getting stuck in. I was quite academic and arty, so I kind of had this sort of mixed background. I remember when you spoke to Megan from Ignite a few weeks ago, being really sort of in school, you're so encouraged to either go down the arty route or go down the science route, whereas actually there's a massive crossover, I think. Yeah, of like questioning the world, looking at stuff around you, experimenting, trying it out for yourself. You hypothesize, what happens if I do this? And I think art and science, there's so much that is together that actually, I don't know, being pushed one or the other is a bit of a wrong thing to do. But yeah, so I was messy, still am. I guess I do have a bit of a fear of things not being perfect. So that is something I'm trying to do with myself, because I have some ideas in my head and I haven't been able to do the artwork yet, because I'm a bit like, I don't know if I can actually make it look like it will look in my head, because in my head it's so finished. And obviously to get to that point, you've got to go through all the rough stages. You've got to do your sketchbook that goes wrong, and, you know, things that go wrong, and scrap that idea and then make the real thing, or have a go at what the real thing might look like. So yeah, I do get a bit scared. And I think that's an important thing for children today. I guess it's to know that adults do it as well. You know, we get that fear of the white page of a new sketchbook, but it's just to go for it, make a mess, see what happens. There's no wrong way. So I'm trying to tell myself here when I'm saying this.
And if you're anything like me, you've got lots of new sketchbooks with like one or two pictures in them, and that's it. And then you get another new sketchbook because you're a bit embarrassed about that one. You push it over, start a new one. Oh no, not sure about that.
Part of a project, and then I've got bored of that and started another project. Got bored of that. Yeah, a lot. Yeah.
But there was this. I mean, you mentioned a bit earlier about this thing about the perfect art work and kids not seeing the process. And I've seen many discussions online about sketchbooks and how what you see on Instagram isn't a real sketchbook. There was this. This is a few jumps away from early years, but the big art centres like CalArts, part of their admission process was to submit a sketchbook. So these people would make the most perfect sketchbooks. I don't think that's their rough, ready, experimenting. It was well-crafted sketchbooks in order to get into the college. And they were the ones that were displayed on YouTube and on, all the other social media channels. And they're quite intimidating. You're thinking, my goodness, page one, you've got this kind of amazing Michelangelo piece. Page two, you've got dinner looks like, I don't know, whoever has made, and it just looks crazy. Like, how can you do that? The thing is, they can't do that.
No.
What they have is lots of other sketchbooks which they make them work, and then they kind of translate that into this perfect thing.
That's it.
And
it's like
it's
behind
no
the
longer a
scenes.
sketchbook, is it? It's more like a gallery.
It's a finished piece.
It's a finished piece. It's not
Yeah.
a sketch at all. So I mean, my sketchbooks are full of rubbish work. No, rubbish is the wrong word to use. My sketchbooks are full of rough and early work, meaning that they don't quite look the way I want them to look, but sometimes that's better than what I thought they would look like.
Yeah.
I think
sometimes it's just a case of getting it out of your head, isn't it? Whatever idea you've got, it's like, I need to get this down. Doesn't quite look like how I imagined it, but then you can work with that. Otherwise, you've got nothing to work with. You've just got the blank page. Or I know in some schools, some settings, sketchbooks need to be neat, and I kind of go in there and go, oh no. And they go, Miss, shouldn't we underline this? Like, no, don't underline it. Do you need a margin? No, you don't need a margin. All these kind of things that are the rules in schools. That it's like, well, actually, no, the whole point of a sketchbook is to get it messy, flick paint on it. They're like, oh, I've flicked paint on it. Yeah, that's the whole point, experiment. This is your chance to kind of try things out, make a mess, and then go, oh, I like that one. And then you might take that one further, and it just like you can inspire yourself that way. Yeah.
Wow. Let's go back here. We're doing yo-yos, but that's fine. I quite like that way of thinking. I don't think in straight lines anyway. Let's take that right back into Reggio Emilia, and it's something I know a little bit about, but I don't know loads about it. Can you explain how Reggio Emilia kind of differs from maybe the standard normal school way of doing and making?
I mean, Reggio Emilia is a region in Italy where they kind of discovered this, or they follow this ethos, this child-led pedagogy of just seeing what the children do, letting them explore, offering them materials and options. It's kind of like loose parts play, offering them a load of options and just letting them go with it and see what they do. So the objects are there, the materials there, and then the children bring the ideas, and then they are mini artists. They are making something. It's so nice, like how they describe things. Often you capture these moments of what children say. So they might say, I've been in a nursery where the children have said something about plants. Plants don't talk, but they make sound. And you're like, woo. It's quite in-depth things that they can come out with, that you're just following them. And watching how children express themselves as well. You've got your visual art, but you've got your sort of dance and movement, and children aren't afraid to dance in front of each other. There's a certain age I think they get to, probably towards the end of primary school when they are. But this sort of early years approach is no one's scared. Everyone can go for it. Anyone can do this. It's been really nice working in a setting recently. We've been using feathers, and our whole inspiration has just been, well, let's bring in some feathers and see what they do. We've been going down this kind of less is more mode. And then it's been great because all of the children who are sort of English as an additional language, or the SEN children, or the non-verbal children, have kind of come over, because we're not explaining, this is how you do something. No, you're doing it wrong. We're just blowing feathers around and floating feathers down and seeing what happens. And it's been really nice to see them really interacting and coming over. And the staff in the setting are sort of saying, oh, it's because we're not talking very much. We're just using feathers. There's no rules. We're just going for it. So it's just been nice to sort of follow this journey of what the children do with the feathers. We then find cardboard tubes and we blow them down the tube, or we collect them all together and put them into clay and make a little creature, or all these different things just from this kind of one starting point. It's been our kind of following their lead, seeing what they come up with.
That's amazing. I like the way that you said it kind of it allows kids that maybe have been on the margins of things looking in rather than getting involved. All of a sudden they feel empowered to actually get stuck in and equally have a place within the process, where before maybe they didn't have the skills to do that. So it's a leveling off, isn't it? It's everyone begins again at a level, the same level, and that's really
it's really nice seeing that, because we've been in quite a few nurseries where there's very much English as an additional language, and new children to the area and to the setting. So they've kind of come in not quite confident enough to go and chat to anyone, or unable to chat to anyone because they don't know what language each other speaks yet. But we're just there sort of playing with feathers, letting them blow around, seeing what happens. And they're like, oh, I can do that. I know what that is. So they sort of builds their confidence to come over. some of the children that are quite young, sort of more 2-year-olds as well, will sort of sit there watching, and we're blowing these feathers around, passing them around. We might pass them on, and to start with, they'd be like, no, no. And we're like, okay, so we'll carry on playing, and a bit later on, we'll pass them on. And then eventually, even those ones kind of come over, and then they join in. And even without speaking, they can sort of tell us what they want us to do. They're bossing us around then. Like, we've got a basket, and they're sort of collecting all the feathers, and they want us to tip it on them, and again, and again, and again. And it's just really nice to sort of see their confidence building over the sessions. It's great.
That's wonderful. That's really good. It takes the whole play element takes me right back. I think in my I can't remember that far back. I don't know how far I can remember, but I do remember playing, and I do remember going to some of these kind of early year settings and just exploring objects and things. I do remember that, but I can't put an age on that, you know.
No.
Maybe I was 2, maybe I was 3, maybe I was 16. I really, I don't know. But yeah, no, it's fascinating, and it's really important. So what do you think the importance of this kind of interaction with young kids is? Why do it?
I think it's again, it's that there's no wrong way. There's kind of, let's play with this, let's see what happens, let's test things out. It's been really nice seeing them, sort of the chattier ones will say to us, what happens when we wet the feather? And we'll go, well, let's try it and find out. And then we dip it in some water, and they're like, oh, it's all soggy. And it's like, we could have said to you, it gets soggy, but actually you need to do that for yourself. You need to try it out. You sort of ask these questions about the world around you, about what's happening, and you need to try it out. And that's how you find out. So it's kind of like being the experimenter, you know, being the explorer, being the artist, you are empowered to be that person and to try it out for yourself. You don't need to wait for someone to tell you or to give you the answer. You need to do it and test it. And I think it helps them develop these sort of critical thinking skills and questioning and looking at the world around you and going, is that right? You know, it's sort of confidence in other things apart from playing with feathers. It's kind of, you know, is that right? If you see that happen to someone on the street, is that right? That kind of general living, I think, sort of building a confidence to think about rights and wrongs, thought processes, and help with your own sort of ideas of what you can do, your well-being, your ability.
Okay, that's really, really good. Sorry, we lost you a little bit. We got your audio through, your picture kind of went pixelated, but that's fine. We could hear what you're saying, so that's perfectly fine. I know that you work with some SEND groups as well. SEND groups. Do you want to explain a little bit about the work you do with those and explain what that is?
Yeah, so special educational needs and disability groups. I've recently worked with a sixth form school, and it's been in that science and art project, so chemistry and art, and it's been kind of, I don't know, there's people that think, I don't know, can you do chemistry in this kind of setting? And it's like, well, yeah, you can. We can bring in little experiments like the lava lamp one, where you've got water, oil in a glass jar, and then you put food colouring in, and then you might drop in a tablet like a vitamin C effervescent tablet, and then it starts to bubble. And then it's been like looking at these really closely with torches, turning the lights down, turning the blinds down, and sort of experimenting what happens. And you can hear them immediately. Again, they're hypothesizing. They're going, what happened? They're going, it's going to spill. And we're like, no, it's not going to spill. And they're going, oh, look, it's changing colour. And then we've kind of been going, well, let's try it with different colours. Let's mix our food colouring colours. Let's do more oil or less water, or whichever way around, or more tablets, or break up the tablet and kind of try, experiment. So what ideas have you come up with? So we've been kind of using, science and art together and pulling these threads to then take the lights and the torches and the sort of glowing things into sort of different ability groups. So sometimes it's really sensory. It's just about the torch looking around the room, or we've projected the lava lamp onto the wall, and then they can stand in front of this lava lamp and see their own shadow within the projection. And then we've used bubbles that have been scented. So it's kind of really immersive, this environment of like the lava lamps going like this, and they're stood in front of it, and then there's bubbles in their face that you can smell. So it's kind of, bringing out all the senses within an art and sort of science creative way, and following their lead again. So it's got the same Reggio Emilia ethos, really. It's kind of seeing what's interested them, and then the next week we'll be like, oh, we'll bring that in, because they seem to really like the lights and we'll bring glow sticks, or we'll bring sort of bendy tubes that light up, and what happens if we put lights in the end. And yeah, sort of letting them and us kind of co-create a sort of project and seeing where it goes. So at the beginning, we don't know what the end result's going to be. It's really process-led and down to those specific children.
Wow. That's quite a brave way of working, because you don't have an outcome in mind. You don't really understand at that stage what's going to happen, and you kind of where you commit yourself to the process.
Yeah.
Want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoy working that way without the outcome in mind, but I can see why the sort of, like I said, my parents were teachers and they're like, oh, you can't do that. It's like, well, yes, you can do that. So things are changing in schools, which is really positive to sort of allow this to happen. So you don't need to necessarily have the end result in mind. And I'm really all for the fact that the journey is just as important as the destination. So, and documenting it as well with photographs. So you might not have a thing to go on the wall at the end of the day, but you've got photos of what they did and them exploring it. And there's loads of moments of capturing, you know, that they're looking at this jar really intently. Or some children, it's like the teachers know, oh, they managed to take that with both hands. That's really good. Normally they don't use two hands. So the teachers and the staff know the children well enough to see that they've done something different, and that it's kind of sparked a sort of wow moment of the process, and just sort of seeing what happens. And then, yeah, each week we're bringing something different. So it links vaguely to the week before, or to the science, or to the ethos that we've been bringing in, and then sort of putting them all together and just seeing what they come out with. And great.
Brilliant. Sounds amazing. I want to get involved. So what you're working on at this moment in time, have you got a project you're working on now or just finished?
Yeah, so I've just made, with the lady I've been working with in the early year setting, we've just made a book. So I'm just going to hold it up here. So it's based on this feather exploration. If you can see it, let me bring it in here. There we go. Feather, where are you?
Screen.
Okay, there we go. Feather, where are you? So myself and Monica Johnson have been working in early year settings. And again, it was this feather exploration that started it off. And it was something one of the children came out with hello, feather, and then going on this journey that inspired Monica to think of a sort of story, a narrative from this kind of one incident. And then we've been putting that together. So we've made a book. And then at the back of the book, we've got loads of ideas that we've been using in our sessions. So it's kind of drama. She's come from a drama background, role play ideas, things you can do relating to the story. And then there's things like going for walks, collecting feathers, becoming a land artist, arranging these feathers in however you want. But loads of ideas using Play-Doh. There's a Play-Doh recipe, and sticking the feathers in to make your own creatures and make your own story and characters. So that's what we've produced at the minute. That's available on Amazon. And we're hoping to then bring that into some kind of play that we can bring to early year settings, so they can see this story and this adventure of this feather, and just how simple it can be, how really easy, you can sort of interact really easily. You don't need a whole lot of material. You don't need all this plastic or wood or whatever. You don't need lots of things. Just one thing can sort of spark journeys and stories.
That's brilliant. And that kind of plays into the fact that a lot of kids are quite fascinated by very, very simple objects and simple things, especially when it comes down to Christmas and you buy something which you spend loads of money on, and they just play with tape or a little bit of paper. And you're like, that's a big thing I just bought.
I mean,
they're not even.
This is it. I think the imagination you can get from using feathers as characters is a lot more than you can get from having the actual character. Like the Paw Patrol character can only be a Paw Patrol character. If you've got 3 different coloured feathers, that could be so many things. And the sort of imagination and the stimulation I think you can get from that is so much more. But yeah, it's just so easy. And I know, like, my son is 12 now, but he used to come home every day from school with like feathers and sticks and acorns and I don't know, seeds and things that he's found, stones in the playground, in his pockets. Every day I'd be emptying the pockets, like, what's this now? Or it's in the washing machine. I can see it going round, another feather. And it is that thing, fascination to hold something and to play with it. And we'd see that actually in our settings. Some of the kids would collect all the feathers up. Some of the kids would only go for the same colour feather that was the colour that we gave them on the first day. They'd always want that feather. It's really interesting just to see the children, how they react differently and how they play and interact with that. And then we let them take them home, which I think is quite nice, to hopefully tell the parents what they've been doing and show the parents a bit of what they've been doing, and then how that can continue from the setting and at home. So yeah,
that's amazing. That's really good. I like the fact that you're developing multi dimensions to the whole book idea, and that it started off as a story which developed into, well, actually it started off with a feather, which developed into a story, which developed into a book, which now is developing into some kind of interactive play. How far are you with that? Can you talk about it yet, or is it still, you still got a bit of work?
We've just got the book out. We've just been talking this morning about how we can use the play, or where we can take it, what we can do with it. So we haven't got much further than that yet. Nothing's been made yet. But that's the kind of next step.
You definitely have to come back on when you figured it out.
Yeah.
When you've got play, come on the show again. I think that'll be really, really good to kind of find out a bit more about that. Really interesting.
Yeah, we're really hoping to take the play as well to the settings that we've worked in. So in the book, it mentions the kind of 3 nurseries that we worked in. And I think revisiting ideas with children is really important for them to be like, oh yeah, we did that. Oh, remember when we did that? And kind of reminding them, and sort of, bringing back, being able to pull that memory out. Because a lot of children, once you've been and done something, they forget it. But actually revisiting it, doing it again, doing it a different way. And with me and Monica coming in again, doing something slightly different, they'll be like, oh, remember when you came in before? You know, it just helps build up people's memories and storage capacity.
Okay, I'm just going to put the link, the Amazon link to, because I don't have it in the copy. So I'm just going to put it on in the chat and then bring it up on the screen for anybody who wants to look for it. And if you can hold the book up again, so they've got the title, it'll be a lot easier for them, actually, to be honest.
Where are you?
Where is it? Oh, I've clicked it twice. That's fine.
I can see it.
There we go. That's no use to anyone. Okay, it's one of those links. Forget that. So just type in the title into Amazon, and I think that's probably the best way. Look for Rachel Scanlon, and it should pop. That's brilliant. Wow, that's really amazing. I think it's been a lovely journey to find out a bit about you. It's been a lovely journey to find out what you're doing with the kids. I can see the creativity and the amazing stuff that's happening there, and the whole kind of discovery element to the art practice they're engaged in. I can see that, and that's pretty amazing. The title of this show, The Secret to Creating Confident Kids. So in your perspective, what is the secret to creating confident kids?
I think it's allowing them to do things, allowing them to explore something for themselves, and the idea that it's not wrong. There's no wrong way of doing something. So just if they do a drawing, look, Mum, look at this drawing, and it's just a scribble. It's like, that's great, you know, that's amazing. And boosting their confidence, because who else can boost confidence apart from, you know, the adults around them? Show them how successful they are and how great they are, and helping them find something they're good at. Because that's the other thing I find with art. When I go into schools, I'll be like, oh, this child over here is amazing at doing this, you know, tiny detailed drawing that we're doing. And the teachers might go, oh, actually, they're really low in maths and English. But I wouldn't know that. You know, I've come in as an outside person, and obviously academically they might not be top of the class, but in the art, I was like, this is amazing. You know, they should really be praised for that. That should be noted, and give them something to boost their own confidence about, and to feel, self-esteem that yes, I'm good at this. I might not be good at PE, whatever, but I'm good at this. So I think that's really important, letting them know when they're good, and showing off about it as well, celebrating it.
Definitely. And any opportunity where kids can actually, you know, feel confident in themselves and what they're producing, I think that's always a good thing. It's brilliant. Okay, I think we're going to open up the floor a little bit to anyone who wants to ask some questions. I've got a few places I've got to look at now. This is quite a tricky thing to do. But LinkedIn is coming straight through. So anyone on LinkedIn who wants to ask a question, please feel free. I'm just going to quick look on Facebook now to see if anything's coming through on that side. So just bear with me whilst I play around with multiple screens and try not to press the wrong button. I know, here we go. Yeah, Joy mentioned earlier, what was it? Full of ideas. She's just amazed at what you're saying. And also she mentioned a school system teaches them to be fearful and to try and fit into molds. And I found that the case when I was at school, and we've had this discussion before, so I think you found equally the case when you were at school.
Yeah, it's a shame, isn't it, when there's all these options out there, and there's the chances to try everything, that they can get so pushed into different ways of thinking.
Yeah, that's probably, is it to do with just how easy, well, to make things easier and to make things simpler for the teachers, really, because of the time constraints of being able to deliver a session to so many children in a short amount of time. Maybe it's to do with that. Maybe it's to do with these are just, there's no answers there, but maybe it's to do with their experience themselves. What do you think? Okay. So nothing coming through on Facebook at the moment. People are watching, but they're not really chatting today, which is fine. I get it. Okay, here we go. Joy's got a question. I'm just going to click on that one. Might have missed it earlier, but did you say what inspired you to do the work you're doing?
I guess I've always wanted to keep doing visual art. It's that thing where you go to university and you do art, and then you come out of it and go, what can I do now for a job? So it's just carrying on doing art. So it's kind of working in schools, working in early year settings, and just being inspired by the children. So it is often really co-created by them. And yeah, they're the ones that I'm following the lead of, hopefully.
Brilliant. Just bears me looking on many screens all at the same time, and it's hard to juggle. I'm gonna have to get my sister just to look at this bit, because it's hard to look at so many screens at the same time. Okay, that's brilliant. I think yeah, I think no more questions are coming through. They might be coming through, but I can't find them. The screens aren't refreshing quickly enough for me to get them. So I'm just going to hold my hands up and say, yeah, maybe that will do. All right, it's been a pleasure, Rachel. It really has, to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Any opportunity to sit down and talk about art, I'm happy. I could be here all day, really. We just have a chat about art and creativity and childhood. That's brilliant. It's been wonderful. Where can they go to find out more about you?
I've got Facebook, Rachel Scanlon Artist. I've got Instagram and Twitter, ArtyGirl21. They are. So lots of my work I put out on there. I have a website, but I need to update that. So
okay. Do you want to have you got access to the chat? Can you type it in the chat and I'll just put it on the screen? So you put your Instagram and your whatever one you want to show. There should be like comments bit where it says comments. If you not the private chat one, the one, just click on that.
I see the comments, but I can't write in them.
Okay, that's probably something I need to do. Don't worry about it. So okay, no worries. What I will do then in that case, after the show has finished, I'll put those links in the replay and send that out. So anybody who really wants to follow you a bit more and find out a bit more details about what you do, they can contact you through those resources. I think that's probably the best thing to do. It's been a pleasure. You've been watching The Secret to Creating Confident Kids. We've had Rachel Scanlon on today, amazing visual artist, working in 3D and 2D. It's been a pleasure talking to you, Rachel. Thank you very much for coming on. Please come back when the play is out and about, so that we can talk a bit more about the impact of the play. I'd really like to find out how that's working out. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for taking your time out of your busy days, your busy schedules, just to learn a little bit and discover more about kids, confidence, creativity, and play, because it's been such a good session. Thank you very much. I think that is a wrap for today.
Thank you.
All right. It's been a pleasure. You take care. And we will soon. Rachel, if you want to hang on, we'll have a chat afterwards.
Okay.
Thank you, everybody. It's been a pleasure.